welcome to Little Learners. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about this book, Tuesday, by David Weisner. I hope I'm saying that name right. I believe that this book can achieve learning objectives across the EYFS framework and just any curriculum. You can get so much good lesson content out of this book. And the most surprising thing you may find about this book is that it is a picture book. Yes, you heard me correctly. This picture book can give you so many opportunities for learning. So let's dive right in. So this book, Tuesday, is all about a Tuesday evening. It has a few words in it. So right at the beginning, Tuesday evening around 8. That's all you get. And then you get some pictures of frogs. They may be frogs, they may be toads. I'm not sure, but the children went with frogs, so that's just what I go with. And they are floating on lily pads. Obviously, I'm not going to show you absolutely every picture in this book because copyright, but as you can see, the frogs start flying around town and they get up to all sorts of shenanigans. So for example, they completely ruin someone's washing line and start flying around looking like they're Superman because they've got a cape on. They go into people's houses. They're just flying around town doing whatever they please. However, towards the end of the book, #spoilers, the frogs start falling off of their lily pads and don't seem to have that magic anymore. And the next morning, all of the humans are trying to find out what happened. All these lily pads are all over town. Where did they come from? So, this story, even though it is a picture book, gives us lots of different opportunities across the curriculum for different learning. I've written a bit of a list, so I will just kind of read them all off for you to give you some ideas for your own classroom. Now, the very first thing I do before I even introduce this book is when the children are out at play or are in a different place, not in the classroom, I cover the classroom in lily pads. Not real lily pads, I make them. So then the children come into the classroom and the classroom is full of lily pads and they don't know why, and they have to try and work out what these green things are. Sometimes they don't figure it out until they start reading this book, looking at this book, and it just creates that kind of awe and wonder and really brings them in to the learning. They are instantly excited about finding out about what's been going on in their classroom while they've been away. Now, I have used this book with a range of different age groups. I've used it in reception, I've used it in year 4. You can really kind of tailor it to your children and the kind of level and ability that they are at. There are so many different things you can do with this. I'm going to focus mainly on early years, but definitely you can use some of these ideas and kind of bring them up to a higher level if you are teaching a different year group. So one thing you can do with this book is you can look at just one page at a time. So if you want to just show them one picture and ask them what's going on, you can focus on that one picture for the entire lesson. You can even start from almost at the end where the detective is looking at the lily pads, show them that picture and ask them what they think is going on. You can do so much learning around that already with them writing police reports or coming up with police reports or investigating, trying to figure out what's been going on before you go back to the beginning and reveal what actually has been happening. The thing with picture books is that they give children the opportunity to come up with a story on their own. They need to be able to understand what's happening in pictures even when they're reading books with words. It's something that in the early years we focus on a lot, whether or not children are able to decipher from a picture what is happening in a story. So picture books are a great way to do that, not only when children are pre-readers, but when they're continuing to learn to read. So I'm going to kind of go through the areas of development and tell you a few different ideas that you can use with your children with this book. So for writing, obviously this gives us lots and lots of opportunities for writing because the children are able to write their own story. So for children who are able, they can write a story recounting what has happened or what they think has happened in the story using the pictures, or you can use a storyboard. That kind of brings into it our shape, space and measure as well because of time, so they can sequence the pictures and then write a caption for each of them. For reading, obviously there aren't very many words in this book, but as I already mentioned, part of reading is being able to look at pictures and decide what is happening in a story and kind of read the pictures. It's a very important skill. For communication and language, children are obviously going to be talking to each other and talking to the teacher, listening to what each other have to say about what they think has happened in this story. So that's a great opportunity for speaking and listening. Children are also able to kind of stand up and tell everyone what has been happening. They can tell the story even if they're not able to write it down yet. So for number, obviously there are lots of things that you can do with this. I quite like to have maybe a sharing activity, so 2 lily pads and some frogs, so maybe you've got some plastic frogs or even just some that you've printed off and laminated, and you can do some sharing, so maybe halving. You've got 8 frogs and the children use the lily pads to find out what half of 8 is, so that they end up with 4 frogs on one lily pad and 4 frogs on the other lily pad. And obviously you can do that with lots of different numbers, and you can even bring times tables into it. So maybe you have lily pads across the table, and on every lily pad there are 5 frogs, and the children need to count them in 5. So they go along the table, 5, 10, 15, 20, but they've also got the actual frogs on there that they can count if they want to check their answer or if they're not that confident in their times tables abilities yet. You can also do adding and subtracting with this. Obviously if you're a teacher you will know that there are lots of opportunities here. Going back to our shape, space and measure, with the measure you can obviously do lots of different sizes of lily pads and children can measure them, not just with a ruler, but it's really lovely to have other things that children can use to measure. So you might want to use multi-links cubes, you might want to ask them how many frogs wide a lily pad is, and use the little frogs that I was talking about in the number activity. There are lots of different things that you can use to measure them with. You can also combine your shape activity with a bit of expressive arts and design. So ask the children to make lily pads in different shapes, and they can be cutting, they can be drawing, painting, and keeping different shapes in mind. So they might come up with a triangle one or a hexagon one. Just let them imagine what their own creation is going to be and then create it. For physical development, it would be a really nice activity to have outside. You can have an obstacle course, so it's as if they are the frogs on the lily pads trying to go in and out, under things, inside things, and as they get towards the end, maybe they need to speed up because someone is the sun and the sun is chasing them, because as it gets to morning the magic is wearing off and the frogs can't fly anymore, so they need to get to the end before the sun does. There are lots of different ways that you can use the story there to really enhance your physical development lesson. For personal, social and emotional development, obviously you can be talking about emotion throughout the story. How are the frogs feeling? So do you think that they have done this before? Is this the first time? How would they feel if suddenly they were on lily pads and they started flying around? How are they behaving? Are they being a little bit naughty? Are they taking good care when they're flying around? There are a few pages where the frogs seem to get in kind of sticky situations. How are they getting themselves out of that? How could they have done that better? Could they have been working together? What would you do if you were a frog and could fly around? What would you do if you were a human and you could fly around at night? And of course, when the frogs no longer have the ability to fly around, how are they feeling then? And how do you think they'll be feeling as time goes on and they can't do it anymore? For understanding the world, this is obviously a really great time to bring in your frog spawn. So lots of reception classes I know will bring in frog spawn around the spring summertime, so children can see it turn into tadpoles and then turn into frogs eventually. And this is a really lovely kind of story to go along with it, even though this is a little bit of magic in there. We've also got the link, the direct link to understanding the world and how things develop. It's also really nice to be thinking about people. So the people side of understanding the world, people and communities. The aftermath of this is that there are people, there are detectives looking at it, there are people in their pyjamas coming out to see what's happened. How does society deal with what's going on here? And of course, for your expressive arts and design, I already mentioned a little bit about the shapes, but you can do so many things with this. So children can be making lily pads out of Play-Doh. They can be painting a scene. They can be drawing what they think their favourite animal would look like if it could fly. What would it use to fly? Would it have wings? If their favourite animal is a fish, would it have to fly around in a bubble of water? There are so many different things you can do there with imagination and really bringing that into the lesson. You can honestly do a whole day, even I think a whole week on this book. It is so wonderful. The children absolutely love it, and it just gives you so many opportunities for some very unique learning experiences. So that is kind of my review and ideas for teaching for the book Tuesday by David Weisner. I highly recommend it. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps out my channel. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to click the little bell as well so you get a notification every time I post a new video so you never miss a thing. Thank you so much for watching. Watch out for frogs, and I will see you next time.